Welcome to the Path to the Better A1C podcast. My name is Jenny, your host, and I'm a national board certified health and wellness coach, diabetes prevention program lifestyle coach, and I am here just to bring awareness about diabetes, strategies that you can apply. And today I am so glad to have an amazing lady that is going to bring a lot of wisdom into wellness programs and how you can take advantage of that if you're struggling with any sort of health and wellness issue in general. But she's going to bring a wealth of knowledge, and I'm super excited about this conversation. Amy, why don't you introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you do?
Thank you, Jenny. First off, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be your first recorded guest. So I appreciate that. I'm Amy Stout. I'm founder of Making the Connection. What I do is I implement holistic well being strategies at companies in order to reduce burnout, reduce retention, and reduce disengagement. And by embedding holistic well being as part of the DNA of a company, that helps improve productivity, retention, and increase profits.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So I hear that you're talking about burnout.
Mhm.
In your own words, like what is the biggest risk when you have a company culture where the employees are high on burnout? And what can even managers do to kind of assess or detect like, okay, like how is my workforce doing in terms of burnout?
Yeah, I feel like so many companies have high workloads that people are struggling to keep up with. In fact, I was just speaking with a vice president of HR who was looking into incorporating a wellness program at her company, and she was quite concerned that employees would see it as another task and how would they add it on top of everything else. We talked about her culture and what how does leadership support, the workload versus, people like taking mental health time off. She talked about the fact that went in to see her CFO to ask a question. The CFO was in the middle of a virtual meeting and in the middle of an in-person meeting, two separate ones, and was just like had a load of stuff on her desk. And the next day the CFO called in and said, "You know what? Taking a mental health day," and didn't check in once. So their culture is supporting addressing burnout. So burnout happens when workloads are unmanageable. There might be unfair treatment at work responsibilities are confusing. You don't know if you have ownership of what you're doing or why you're doing it. If there's unclear communication, so I also have a client who struggled with burnout because they did a rollout of a big project and it was not communicated clearly. So employees didn't know what they were supposed to do. Managers didn't know how to help them or tell them what to do. So people were just like, what am I supposed to do? They're worried they're going to get laid off. They don't know what's going to happen. Another cause of burnout is unreasonable deadlines that people can't make. Also, feeling unrecognized and unrewarded also leads to burnout because, people come to work wanting to do their best and wanting to be aligned with a mission and doing good things. And when they feel they're doing good work, if they're not getting recognized, that momentum to keep doing that good work is like, why bother? No one notices. It doesn't matter if I'm here or not. And another big cause of burnout is when people are expected to be online or available after hours. I know I used to work at a company that I would get texts at 10 p.m. and they wanted an answer at that time. That was the culture. You just did it. I also have a good friend who worked for a big company that I thought was a really good one, and they just work their people crazy. You're on your work phone up until you go to bed. Maybe in the middle of the night, you will get a call or a text or whatever. And then first thing in the morning, you're back on answering questions and addressing things. You don't get any downtime.
That is amazing. And I mean, I remember my times, like I worked in the financial district and I know the overwhelming and that feeling of if you were not available at all times, there was just something wrong and you felt like you had to be available. And there
Right.
was practically like no boundaries. And that's why at some point you're just burned out.
Mhm.
And I know as a health coach, the negative impact that this can have on your overall health, and especially on your blood sugar levels
Yes.
and focus and brain fog and all of these things. Now, I know that you work with management, HR departments, and all of that, but let's address the individuals that maybe are not in that position,
Mhm.
but they do want to advocate from themselves. Or sometimes I know that these wellness programs may have some benefits, and a lot of the employees are not even aware of it. Is there anything that you see that seems to be a standard or something that you would like to share for people to look into, or maybe reach out to HR and ask about these things, or maybe advocate when they ask for these surveys every year that there is enrollment period? Hopefully they do look at those answers. Maybe there is a way of them advocating and asking about these things.
Absolutely. And most medical carriers, I'm in Illinois, so Blue Cross Blue Shield is very prevalent here, as well as United Healthcare. Most medical carriers will have free programs where you can go online, set up your profile, and they'll have resources available. So for somebody who is pre diabetic or diabetic or wanting to learn more about that, if they have some family dealing with that, they can find resources through their medical carrier. Medical carriers have so much available that we just don't understand as the common person, unless you're involved in benefits. They have so many resources and tools available. There's also programs that they have, so like little challenges or, just kind of a weekly thing to maybe take note of what track your food and track your drinking that day of like what type of beverages, like sugary versus not, to see where you might be participating in unhealthy habits. So that's one way that employees can advocate is ask their HR person, their HR manager, what type of tools and resources their medical carrier has available for them.
Okay. And I remember even when I was working in Wall Street that, and I first got diagnosed with prediabetes, that there was this sort of program that you would go through and you will get some rebates to go into your health savings accounts or flexible savings accounts if you actually completed it. So there was just something that you would get out of as an incentive for you to do that. And I remember that there were also these wellness campaigns that some like places will have, that you will do that assessment. And I know that probably you're a bit familiar with that. Would you talk a little bit about it? Maybe like, and I know that it's typically more on larger companies that seems to be more available, but I don't know if my idea it's wrong. But what is your experience and what have you seen in terms of like these wellness campaigns and these other programs?
Yep. I have several clients who host on site biometric screenings. And part of that screening process is an online health and lifestyle survey. So all the information is completely confidential. The company never knows about it. All the information goes from the lab directly to the participants portal. They'll answer on the questionnaire, they'll answer questions about, like their sleep, their eating, if they participate in drinking alcohol or not, whether or not they move much, they move their body, things like that. And then with the blood screening, it's great because so many of them take tests for glucose as well as your A1C. So it's always interesting when we go over the aggregate results with our HR counterpart to say, oh, your glucose is overall, you've got a good picture on your glucose for your population, but your A1C is high. And, it's kind of like, okay, your glucose gives you the snapshot, as you well know, and the A1C gives you what's been happening for the past 90 days. And that's what we really need to pay attention to. So that's been very helpful to educate our HR counterparts. Okay, now you've got a population who has a high A1C bubbling up. So let's now address some awareness campaigns and some educations and tools and resources to your company overall so that they can be aware and pay attention to it. To go one step further, these vendors who do the screenings, they do offer nurses or registered dietitians to come on site and meet with participants one-on-one to review their results, which I think is the best practice ever because people are going to look at the results and whether or not they think in the moment, like, oh no, I need to do something about this, they're going to forget about it. But if
Mhm.
you have somebody professional objectively saying, your high A1C means this, and these are the steps you can take to manage or even improve it, that I think goes a lot further.
Yeah, and I know that me included, because that's exactly how I reacted. Sometimes when you see these elevated, if it's not too high, it's almost like, okay, like it's probably an outlier. I remember when I first was diagnosed with prediabetes, I kind of ignored it. And I was like, oh, that's an outlier. And then when it started creeping up, and I ended up being on medication, then that's when I started to pay more attention. And I know that in other states, most likely, and I know in the state of New York, one thing that I love is that the lab results, if you keep going to the same doctor and same labs, they actually give a comparison of the previous. So I keep telling everyone, prospects and clients, that paying attention, even if it is within normal range, if you see a trend, even with the A1C of slowly creeping up, that may be a sign that, okay, maybe you're developing some insulin resistance. Maybe you need to talk to a nutritionist or to your doctor and see what lifestyle changes you can actually apply. And I'm even going to throw that the CDC has an amazing program. If you are pre-diabetic, and in a lot of places is done either for free or very low cost, depending on your insurance, especially if you have Medicaid, Medicare, like there's a lot of places that they offer this 1 year program for free. It is like that National Diabetes Prevention Program. That is a
Nice.
great option. I love that there are all these wellness programs that are advocated. Now, what is a one success story that you can share about either a client or maybe somebody that was trying to advocate very strongly for it and it seemed like it was going to be impossible and yet they were able to like accomplish it?
Yeah, so I have a client, and I'm going to talk about one woman in particular. I had posted about her previously on LinkedIn. She fretted every time and got anxious every time it was biometric screening time because she was overweight. She knew her counts were poor, and every time, her results came back, and what will happen is when people's scores are high and well out of range, they will receive a call. If they do not address that call, they also get a letter in the mail. So she would receive those letters that said, you've got diabetes, you need to address this, go to your doctor. And she would always stuff those things into her desk and not pay attention. And after, I think, 3 years of this, she said she just got to that point, where she felt like, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired. I have no energy. I need to take control so I can feel better. So she went to her doctor. They reviewed her results. They put her on a plan where she, got on medication. She started exercising. She improved her eating. And I think it was about 2 years later, I think she lost over 100 or 140 pounds. And her diabetes went into remission and she was off all medication. So she's a huge wellness champion, obviously, because her wellness program saved her life um, by giving her those biometric screening results and her making sure she addressed them saved her life because she could have she's obviously at a higher risk for heart disease and stroke and all that when you have these several things going on in your
Yeah.
health.
Hmm. Hmm. And this is something that I also try to say. And the one thing that I see in common when people hear pre-diabetes or diabetes is they feel that it's like a death sentence, almost as if, well, I'm going to be taking what medication do I need to take? And they feel like they have nothing to do, that there's nothing, that it's like the point of no return. So this is like yet another example of something that I
Mhm.
keep telling my clients and potential clients and everybody that would listen. And is that, yes, it is a condition, but you can make lifestyle changes and they do have a strong impact that would either help you reduce the amount of medication. They will help you, again, go into remission. Like I have been able to be at a normal range without any medication and again without restrictive diets because that's like something that I advocate so much because there was a lot of diet mentality and very extreme solutions, and most of them are not sustainable. Like you may see some results for a short period of time, but a lot of these solutions they're not sustainable. But this is just another example that a lot of people may think, well, I was diagnosed with diabetes, there is nothing I can do to change. And yet, these changes, right? Like probably incorporating exercise, changing her eating habits, all of these things. Look at the amazing amount of weight loss. And not just that, right? Like weight loss is like one of the aspects. The fact that she was able to now be off medication and have her energy back. And many of us that we're overachievers and we want to make sure that we are responsible with our job and we want to shine. If you don't address these things, even your focus and your performance is not going to be the best. Now, for individuals that maybe have diabetes, and I know that there are even laws protecting, like that's one thing that you don't even have to disclose at work. But
Mhm.
what can individuals do besides like the HR and approaching or even taking it from a different perspective? What can a manager do that maybe has a bit more power or access to those that make the decisions in a company? What can they do to try to bring these programs? Where can they go to even maybe get somebody to talk to them or go and make a presentation? Like, what are some solutions that maybe concern managers that they see the burnout in their staff and they know that wellness may be something that could alleviate that? What can they do?
Yes, they can talk to executive vice presidents, leadership in HR, can team up with the CFO perhaps and or the CEO and say, "Hey, we need to incorporate wellness." When we incorporate wellness strategy, and this is not just, hey, it's a walking challenge and blood screening. This is tools and resources and education that meet all different holistic wellness pillars, such as your physical, also your mental, your social well being, your financial well being with education and tools and resources that people can use, learning and development. When employees are part of a well being program, they feel valued. They
Mhm.
feel taken care of and they're doing a better job. They're also healthier, so they're happier and they're going to stay at the company. You're going to have better retention and they're going to be a ambassador for bringing good talent into this company. So, really, it's about teaming up with CFO, CHROs, giving the cause for bringing this in. And then what I do is, assess employees to see perhaps where they might need the support. And then I create a tailored program for that company itself, including all the different pillars of wellness and aligning it with their benefits and perks. So it's not just something that's off to the side. It's part of the company's DNA. The leadership is embracing it and talking about it and participating in different activities and challenges or he is showing up at these webinars and educational opportunities. They're participating and they're talking about it and everybody knows that it's available to them. They know right where to go and, they're all reaping the benefits of that.
Yeah. And it sounds like also there is a, and I know that a lot of it when you go to upper management, a lot of it has to do with finances, right? Like what is in it for me? Where is the money? And you will be saving because you're going to have productive people, you're going to have happy people, your company culture and even reputation outside because we're not going to name names, but there's some companies out there that everybody knows the culture is not the greatest. It spreads out and it impacts your image as a company as well. And I
Exactly,
hear.
and oh, go ahead.
Mhm. Sure.
You also save on, losing people and rehiring people. That's a huge cost that perhaps isn't a line item, so leadership isn't seeing it, but you're losing, um, when you hire somebody, you're spending about 1.5 times of that salary, plus, you're losing productivity time, other people are training that person, so you're losing their productivity time, and when you have wellness involved in your company, you do increase your profits, you increase your revenue.
Yep, absolutely. And I know, like, I was able to actually give a workshop to a small company. So some companies, even if maybe you don't have the big purchasing power or assets to invest, there are different activities that you can do. And it could be just as simple as having even an exercise class around lunchtime and having them being able to join and have access to the recording, or having a workshop to talk about diabetes and how you're
Really?
supposed to build your snacks. How do you overcome that 3 p.m. slump and all of that? So there are many ways that you can support your employees. There are many ways that you can advocate and maybe whisper at the HR person and say, like, why don't we have maybe a webinar or a workshop or something like that to touch on this subject that seems to be relevant, right?
Right.
Now, in conclusion, the last thing that I wanted to ask is any last tip, if there's like one thing that you would recommend everybody to do to try to advocate for themselves in terms of wellness programs or anything related to what we discuss, what would be like that last thing that you'll be like, okay, look into this one thing?
I would say look into your medical plan and all the tools and resources it has. Some of them even have coaching involved for a short term to get you through this. Some medical plans also have add-on programs based on claims where they give discounts on.
Discounts on supplies,
Yes.
discount on gym memberships,
Yes, exactly.
and things of that sort.
Um, that's what I would say. And then how can you bring more wellness into your company itself? Again, participating in different activities that also builds the culture. You're strengthening your culture. People are wanting to come, happy to come to work. And it's fun. You know, one client, did a challenge doing burpees, and so middle of the day, they'd get down and do as many burpees as they could in 1 minute. So it also it adds a layer of fun to it.
Okay, that's awesome. So I'm going to give you just quick questions. And then after that, I would love for you to share where people can find you
Okay. Mhm.
and how they can support you, ask questions or anything like that. But one habit that you have to keep you energized, to protect your energy and burnout.
Yes, I have a morning ritual wh where I get up before the people in my house. I have 2 dogs. They may or may not hang with me, but I make time for peace and for stillness. If it's nice, I can sit outside. Um, I'll have time for reflection, journaling, and setting my intentions for the day.
Okay, that's awesome. What is the worst wellness advice that you have ever received?
I was having a conversation with a woman who is, I'm going to say, a boomer. And I only say that because she was talking about someone younger, which I'm going to say probably a Gen Z person in her company. And she said, I just don't understand. They're too soft. They just, when any little thing happens, they need to take a break. It's stress and they need to take a break. And she goes, they just need to power through. And that's not true. I mean, people should not be powering through any stress, whether or not it appears to be stress to another person. What you are feeling, if you are stressed, that's your own gauge. So do what you need to do for that stress, whether it's, really it's taking a break. Take a break, go outside, take a walk. That's the best thing you could ever do. Don't power through. That's only going to increase your level of burnout.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you do when you hit a 3 p.m. slump and you're feeling like, okay, I need siesta or something?
um, So I'll go outside. Our weather's nicer now. I'll go outside. I will play with my dogs because playing with my dogs, I'm very present because they bring a ton of joy and love and fun. So that helps me break that slump.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Dark roast coffee with almond milk.
Oh,
And
okay.
and I've added trace minerals lately.
Oh, okay, okay. Somebody is supporting her body well. Awesome.
Mm.
Well, Amy, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you,
love
Jenny.
that you are incorporating these things that I think like every episode of my podcast, I keep telling people to take mini breaks, especially if you have like tons of meetings back to back. Kind of like, okay, like even if you take like a 5 minute march in place or even walk
Mhm.
around your office, if you're in the office after lunch, if you have a 10-minute walk, like that helps so much with blood sugar regulation, with your energy levels, and with your mental health. It helps even disconnect. A lot of people eat their lunches while they're in front of
Mhm.
the computer and they don't even have a mindful time to eat their
Right.
lunches and eat their meals. And that also, don't even let your brain register that you have eaten, which
Right.
leads to other things. So amazing. But please share everyone that needs to speak with you that would like to explore more. Maybe you can help them advocate. Maybe you can help them incorporate a wellness plan. Please
Oh, I'd love
share
to.
where they can find you.
Thank you. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Amy Stout. Also, my email address is amystout at makingtheconnection.biz, B-I-Z, and I'm happy to see you there.
And I will definitely add everything in the show notes so you can check that out. And I will put all her information there. But thank you so much, Amy, for bringing
Thank
some
you.
awareness. Now you know your takeaways, right? Like, talk to your HR manager. Even I would say call your insurance company and ask what type of plans they have. Maybe the company is not even aware of all the things that they're offering. There may be some kickback if you complete some of these plans and you get some money for your deductibles and all these things. So look into that and don't be afraid to be an advocate. I love that burpee example that you did. Like I know that some people do these steps challenge.
Oh,
There's
yes.
some groups that they do that. So think about, okay, like if it's something that feels that is going to help and you can
Mhm.
be the initiator of that, why not? A lot of it
Absolutely.
doesn't involve too much money and yet it will be amazing in terms of returns. But
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Amy. And as always, every Friday morning, we have a new podcast episode. Stay tuned, subscribe, and share this if you know anyone that maybe is in a position that can push for that program or anybody that feels a bit burned out. Maybe this will bring some hope and some solutions to them. Until the next one, bye.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you for being here.